friends, this is Nikki the pharmacist, and I am so happy this morning that I get to share the food church with Mike and Lacie Dickson. Welcome so much. Welcome to the food church. I'm sorry, I'm just super excited to have you guys with me.
Thank you. It's an honor to be on.
Friends, this is Nikki the pharmacist, and I am so happy this morning that. Oh, I'm still learning how to do this. Sorry, guys.
It's all good.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
All right. Well, greetings. Thank you for having us on.
Yeah, we're excited to be here.
Yes, we are. So it was really nice meeting you back in, what was that, November? Where we finally got to meet you in person and hang out together. That was great. At Polyface Farm. It was a really great experience. So
you meet all the fun people at Polyface.
Yeah.
Right? I am still basking in that cream, the creams that you gave me, Lacie.
Oh,
I love them. You ruined me forever. I'm like, I need more of that stuff, girl.
That is so good.
Well, I'm glad you like it. I like making it. I don't get to do it as often as I like, but yeah.
Well, I feel
Now, are you planning to go to the Homesteaders of America in Virginia in October?
Oh, actually, I had not, but maybe I might.
You should do it. I'm speaking at that one, so hopefully you'll be there.
We'll be there.
I will. Are y'all coming to the Rogue Food Conference on Polyface in August?
I think I just got an email not too long ago. I don't know yet. We'll have to look into it. Maybe. Are you speaking there?
I'm speaking at that one. No, it's always nice to just see you guys everywhere anyway. Like I've just been on high for the past 24 hours knowing I get to talk to you today because I feel like, my favorite thing about you guys is the love. Like you just walk in love and you really do. That is who you are. There's nothing, it's so genuine and I love it. And I want to share that with everybody. I wanted to share that with everybody, especially right now when I feel like, everybody's just seeking relief. And they don't know. I feel like when we were there on Polyface last November, the energy that was there as we were speaking truth. And Del Bigtree came and brought the thunder and the lightning and the sun.
Yeah.
And the sun at the end. I mean, what I want everyone to know is that the well-being is everywhere.
Yeah.
The well-being's everywhere. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about with you guys today is, I don't think anyone is really giving enough attention to the fact that there's always two worlds going on. There's always two worlds. Like there's this very civilized world, and then there's always a very uncivilized natural world in the background that any of us can choose at any moment to participate in. Like we can stop participating in the unnatural, more chaotic, civilized world, and we can always go back to nature. But you guys, you actually did it. Like you actually chose to go back to that uncivilized world. And I think, how did you guys come to that decision?
Well, it was a mutual decision, but for me, I felt like in addition to that, it was also a calling, because I didn't grow up connected to the outside natural world. I wasn't a farmer, wasn't a homesteader, didn't grow anything at all until I was probably in my mid-20s or something like that. Yeah. But I was always interested in health and fitness and the body. And that was kind of like my transition to introducing me to the more natural way of life and having that connection of being concerned about our temples and our bodies. Yeah. That led me to being concerned about what I was putting into my body. And then as we started to have children, to be concerned about what was going into their bodies as well.
Yeah. And I had grown up kind of homesteading. Like I grew up beside my one set of grandparents, and they always had a big garden and chickens and all this. So I was familiar with it. And I had told him, I was like, I just want to live out in the woods with no neighbors. And whenever we first met, he wanted to live in the city. And I was like, I might could do that for a little while, but not forever.
Yeah. I was a suburban city boy all growing up. So I was like, I'm gonna live out in the country. Why? Why?
And whenever we got our first house and we started growing a garden, and he saw like, wow, we could grow more and more, and really got more interested into growing more food on small spaces. We wanted chickens, and then we couldn't have chickens because of the ordinances. And that's whenever we were both there then, like really on the same page about all of it.
It sure was. The chickens were the straw that broke the camel's back for us making the decision to sell everything, to leave the city, and to move out to the country. When I say it was a calling is like a change of your heart and your mind. And that was what was going on with me. To be someone that was like, live out in the country, no, to being somebody now that like, living in the city, no way. Why in the world would you want to live in the city? It's ridiculous. So it has been a calling and a journey, and definitely something that's been worthwhile. With doing that is allowed us to live a life that's more connected to the natural world, the plants, the animals, to one another, and to yourself. We don't even realize that when we live the lives that we live in this box world where we're just constantly looking at screens all day. I know we're looking at one now, but we're doing it for a good reason. How we become even disconnected from our own selves and our own souls and our own purpose for life. And so many people just kind of coast through life with no real sense of purpose.
Well, and if you're looking at a screen all the time, you see all these people and you think that's how your life needs to be. Mm-hmm. Or you see there's something that you want in their life that they're trying to achieve, whenever really you're not achieving what your possibilities in your own life, because you're seeking someone else's life.
And that's not living intentionally. That's living how others want for you to live. They're injecting their thoughts, their ideas into your life and how you should live to serve them. When you really break it down, is to serve them, but not to better serve you in a love and way that brings out the best in you as an individual.
And do those things line up with your morals and your values whenever you're seeking after what someone else has, instead of, seeking what you need for your life? So
as we have been in this journey and listening to this calling that I feel like we've had, it's definitely changed us in a number of ways. A lot of people see it as living the simple life. And in a sense, yes, but in a way, that word simple is kind of misleading. A lot of people misunderstand the simple life, because really our lives we work much harder than we had previously. And it can be really much busier than it was before, but it's a different busy. It's a different work hard. It's a more intentional, more fulfilling, more rewarding way of life, of being connected. And while we're outdoors working, just observing the different patterns of plants and animals and how things work, that there's so many lessons that we learn in doing that. And it also feeds our souls and connects us in how we're supposed to live in rhythm and unison with these things.
Yeah, for sure.
So, So I know that the word simple means a certain thing to people. They have this over romanticized view on what the simple life is. It's not, who is that, Paris Hilton or whatever. It's not that at all. It's nothing like that. It's a life that is really living with intentionality and having goals and a purpose for your life and the decisions that you make. Like I said before, a lot of people just kind of coast through life with no goals.
As we were talking about this, what does simple life mean? We always kept coming back to intention. You always have to recenter your intentions, because the simple life is not simple, and you can run yourself ragged living the simple life just as you can living in the rat race. So you have to be intentional with your time and your energies.
And I think that's different from person to person. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're a hands-on homesteader as far as simplifying your life, But that can maybe mean that, hey, you're kind of looking at your life, you're examining and analyzing your life, which a lot of people don't do, but you should do, and say, hey, I have just stuck in the rat race. I have this job that I have hated for years, and I'm here just to keep up, to have this house that people have told me that I should have, the type of house, type of size or whatever, and these cars that I should have, and all these activities that I should shuffle my kids around to, all because of what the society around us has made us and influenced us to have. And it's not the one that we have designed for ourselves out of intention.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. So are you saying that you create your own world?
You do. Yeah.
Is that what you're saying? Because I told somebody that I create my own world, and they told me I was crazy, and they were like, "That's very funny, Neethi. You're so funny." And
Well, I mean,
I like what you're saying about simplify. I don't think simple means. I think simple for us, if it is that we're choosing it.
Yes.
But I think that what people don't realize is they're choosing their hard life.
Exactly right.
What do
I
you think?
totally agree. I believe that God gives us each the ability to have freedom of choice. Anytime that someone is saying that we don't have that freedom of choice, it's not coming from him. And so that is somebody dictating your life. We each have to make our own choices. Some choices are for the better, some are for the worse. Some will result us in good and blessings, and some will result in curses and punishments. But we each have the ability to make our own choices.
Yeah. Well,
and should have that.
Well, and look who you hang around with. Isn't it one bad apple spoils the bunch? If you are hanging around with certain people that are going to be focused on negative things and pointing you in a negative direction, that is what you are going to be like. And if you are hanging out with people that are positive and are building a good life for themselves, and they want that for other people, that's what you're going to do. So it's all about, you are creating your world by who you hang around with, the things that you watch and put into your brain, and the actions that you do every single day. That creates your world. That is your world. And you can do all kinds of things. People like to limit themselves because they're like, well, I could never do that. And you can do.
Well, I think it's training, Lacie. Like I agree with you. Okay. But I think that everybody has been trained by the institutions. I mean, think about it since we were kids. Like, you're supposed to be in kindergarten. You're supposed to be in first grade. You're supposed to be in second grade now. Now you're only, and you're supposed to win the certificate or the ribbon or the accolade. And I think that the difference between those folks and even us, I guess, is that we don't need the accolades.
That's right.
We're not looking for it. So like when you're living your life in the way that you are now, I really like what you said, Mike, about how, it's a different busyness. And what people don't understand is like, when we're choosing what we want to do, and I mean, I'm busy, I'm so busy. And everybody's like, well, what are you doing? And I'm like, it's kind of hard to say, hard to tell you what I'm doing. But, and it's not even really a secret, but like, I don't know, I'm doing something all the time, and I seem to be moving forward, and somehow I'm able to make it, and I don't know how. Right.
I think a big part of that is you're living a purpose-filled life. You know what you want to do, and you're doing it out of passion, out of love of what's coming from you and your heart. And this isn't something that somebody picked for you. So, and I feel like that's the same for us. And that motivates me to get up out of bed and get up and do what I need to do on a daily basis. And even to share what we do on YouTube, that gives me the motivation to share that with others out of love and concerning and wanting to share, because that's what drives me. It's a purpose. It's not just something that somebody chose for me.
Well, and even with that, sometimes, YouTube is a grind. And there's been times where like, is it really worth it? Is it really worth doing all of this? Because a lot of people don't understand what all goes into it. But then we'll get messages like just watching your video brightens my day, or we started a garden just because of watching you. And like, that right there, like, well, I guess, this is our purpose. This is like where we can make a difference and what we can do. And, that's where we do need to put our energy and to helping others. But, in turn, that's part of our job too. And it's nice whenever you can take your purpose and make it a living off of it. So, I just think about those things.
Yeah. And I want to say this for everybody, because I think this is a practical point that everybody can apply. Whatever you are in your life, just take time to step back from your life, look at your life, examining it, and actually start living intentionally. Start making some goals for yourself. There's a really good book. It's actually just a small book, really easy to read. It's called The 7 Laws of Success. That is a great book for helping you to figure out the practical laws that is going to help you to live a more successful and purposeful life. Not necessarily the most wealthy or whatever the society defines as success, but it will help you to have your own personal success. And with that, just start making the changes as you have those goals. Actually start doing something about it to achieve those goals, and start having intentional actions with your intentional plans and thoughts and goals. And for example, so maybe you're just like, you're at your job and you just really want to make a change. Maybe you need to downsize your house so you don't have to be in bondage to debt to pay for this house and this lifestyle that you really deep down inside don't want, but make those changes. Maybe it requires a career change. That's what I had to do. I was in the fitness industry for 15 some years, serving as a personal trainer and nutritional coach. But when I realized that looking forward in the trajectory of where my life was headed, and I saw my manager, I was like, whoa, I don't want to be like that when I'm his age. I want to have a different life. So those are some of the things the thoughts of examining my life that led us to where we are here today.
Well, and you have to do scary things.
Yeah.
Whenever he told me, he's like, I want to quit my job, I was like, what? Like, he was only one bringing income in, and I knew he didn't like what he was doing at that point, and I wanted him to do something different. And sometimes you have to make a radical change. And I'm not saying just go out and quit your job and don't know, right now, but it just, I guess more and more, we also talk about, do things that are uncomfortable, because they're going to push you to do more and be able to do more. So,
Okay, so I want to ask you about that, because like a lot of times people say to me, well, what is uncomfortable? What do you mean? Like, what are some ideas of uncomfortable? And also, I want to just go back to what you were talking about just a second ago. So you said wealth. What is wealth anyway? Like, I want people to think about this. Like, what is wealth? I think that you just recently, I don't know if people just think like, Mike, he was this like famous. I think people think that you were this super famous bodybuilder and you made all these $100 million. And because you took all that wealth, that now you can just play in a year on YouTube or something. Or that is the reason why that you have a bunch of people who care about what you have to say, or they think that, like they have to create this whole following from somewhere. And then, you're just lucky because everybody wants to hear you because, you're Mike, the fit farmer who looks like bomb. And so maybe that's why, but I think that if anyone meets you in person and feels the energy that comes off of the both of you, that's just like a blanket. It's like a warm blanket. Then they'd be like, oh, that isn't really it. Like, it's more. It's more than that. Even when you meet like Adele or anybody, like there's this power, this confidence, that and the reason that I think that you have it is because you were brave and you took a risk, and was that risk always rewarded? Was it always easy? Did you sacrifice something? I mean, like, is that what you mean? Like, what is this scary thing? Talk about some of that.
Let's see here. Where do we even start? Well, you have to act on faith once you start examining all the different things that you're examining and the goals that you set. But sometimes you got to go through a time of patience and pain. Like, I didn't just quit my job right away and just had income rolling off YouTube. It didn't work like that at all. And another thing is, bodybuilders really don't make that much money. So there was that.
Unless you're like Mr. Olympia and you have all
So
these sponsors, which he did not have at all.
None of that. So the only income I had at that time was from working at the fitness center, the gyms that I was at as a personal trainer and nutritional coach. But it was to the point I went from loving being in that atmosphere to absolutely just hating it on a day-to-day basis. And it was a grind. And it was a grind, especially when you don't have that goal and thing that you're shooting for. But once the calling came in of the direction I wanted to change and live our life, that helped me through that, because it was a couple-year process where I still had to be there working on a day-to-day basis as we were trying to figure out how to get this place here, this homestead set up and still fun for things, because we still got to eat. And it was tough. It's really.
Did you do it in stages? Did you do it in stages?
Yes. I got to the point where I was a personal trainer full time, and then I gradually was able to begin cutting back my hours to part time, and then I worked on my own for a part time for a little bit, and got to the point where I just was able to gradually push it aside. Yeah. But I needed to, as I had to have some kind of income while we were trying to do this homesteading thing. So it was like I was working 2 jobs, man. It was tough.
Well, another thing though,
and we were cutting out Netflix and all these other luxuries that people have. We didn't have cable, and we weren't going out to eat. We weren't going to spend extra time with friends. Those are hard things. Those are the hard things that you have to do to achieve goals. Your goals are not going to come easy. Any worthwhile goal is not going to come easy.
I remember when we were still living in the city and we had cut stuff so back, and it was like we were really not making much money at all. When once a month going out to sit with a bunch of ladies and talk and have a cup of coffee, and even going sometimes and not being able to buy a cup of coffee because you didn't have $2.50 just to do that.
Yeah.
That is where we were. It wasn't like, oh, we won't go out to dinner this week. It was like, I made everything from scratch. Yeah. We were pared back to the bare minimum, just getting by whenever we were like that.
Yeah.
And even then, he wanted chickens so bad. He went out and bought chickens off of Craigslist and put them down here on the property that we're at now. And every other day we had to come feed and water the chickens and gather eggs. So that forced us to come down here, and it forced us to do more to work towards our goal.
Yeah. And I was still working two jobs and doing some just random other side jobs when I could, just for extra income flow, and still trying to set up the homestead on top of that. So it was a grind. So
there were blood, sweat, and tears.
There sure was. I still remember raccoons being pulled through the fencing. I mean, chickens, the raccoons pulling chickens through the fencing that we had set up to keep them in. And it was just, they were dying left and right. It was just so discouraging. And I wanted to quit even before we really got started, but we just hung in there. Those are just some of the things you're going to have to deal with. But it will be worth it
for a minute, right? Like you get to this point and you're like, never mind. Why are we doing this? What's going on?
Yeah. You have that level of excitement at first, and then it starts to rub off as that romanticized view begins to get slapped in the face with reality. At the same time of that, you're learning. So you're making beginners mistakes along that. So it's just like a ball of mess there for a while. But whatever it is, it may not be chickens or homesteading. It may be something different for those who are watching, but that you're going to have your moment, your time of just mess. Just get through that. Focus on the bigger picture of your goal, and it will be better on the other end. Just hang in there.
And I think that's another reason we do continue to do YouTube, and we hung in even when YouTube was like really hard. You're not making any money and you're working like a third job. Yeah. That's pretty much what it is.
We wanted to quit there too.
Yeah, we wanted to quit plenty of times. But what kept me going was like, I want to share our mistakes with people so they can skip those.
Yeah.
Because like, why do we not? We have all of this ability to share this information. We should be sharing the information. That's how a community grows. That's what a community does. That's what it used to do, years and years ago, whenever people lived in small communities. They helped one another and they shared the information back and forth. And I think that's one reason why we keep doing it, is because like, look, we made some really dumb mistakes. Don't do this. Do it different.
Yeah.
Just so we can help people get further, faster.
So I think the thing that people see or they believe is that, oh, if we sell all our stuff in town, we'll have enough money to just go and do that. And I just don't know that that's actually the case in most people's lives, But besides that, you said something really important, Lacie. You said share things with a community, meaning you had to do this with help. You had to have done this with some love around you. It wasn't, like just without all of that. And also, I think the other part of it is everybody's like, thinks, well, you just have to create some kind of gimmick. I don't think you're creating a gimmick. If you meet Mike and Lacie, you guys, I don't know what the gimmick is still. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's the yurt. Maybe that's the gimmick. I don't really
I haven't found it out either. So let me know when you find it.
Yeah. Let us know what it is so we can capitalize on it some more.
I was like, I don't know. I mean, the only thing maybe is that maybe it's just different to live in a yurt versus not. I don't know. But like outside of that part of it, I don't understand. And also they got kids. Like that's got to be not fun to change their lives, uproot them from what they think is the normal thing to do. I mean, my kids think that I'm really hard to live with because I'm Neethi the pharmacist and I'm always like teaching people how to use regenerative meat and, food. And we don't go to the grocery store and they just are like, you're crazy, Mom. You think coconut oil and lard is the solution for everything. Like it's the cure all for everything. Can you speak to how your kids feel about some of that? Because that's got to be hard for them too. Or is it not? Because they're so well grounded.
I want to say before we go answer that, I do want to talk about the yurt part of it. It wasn't a decision we just said, oh, we're just going to live in a yurt. Just looking at a random list of alternative lifestyles to live.
Yeah.
No, the yurt has been our vehicle to achieve the goal that we wanted to live of having a more intentional lifestyle that was more connected to the natural world and to one another. It was because that was the only thing that was within our budget to be able to allow us to do this way of life. So for other people, it may be something completely else. It may be a tiny house. It may be a foreclosed house. It may be a tent. I don't know.
Yeah.
Whatever it is for you. And as far as our kids in connection with that, for the most part, they don't know of any other type of life. They don't. Our oldest is still too young when we moved, she was too young to really remember any of that. So that was another thing that I had in mind as part of the intention thing.
Yeah.
When we made that move, I was like, I think now is the time to make this change now, not to put it off years, but to just go after it and do it now. The kids are still young where it won't affect them really bad. And I'm still pretty vigorous. I can do the things that need to be done. So I think now is the time. I can't say what the time is for everyone watching, but you have to figure that out. But don't just keep putting it off.
I will say, don't keep putting it off because so Selah doesn't know. She'll be 11 this summer. She doesn't know any different really. And you can kind of see in certain ways and things that she does that she doesn't know any different. Like one of her favorite podcasts to listen to is Wise Traditions from Weston A. Price. And she will tell you, she'll be hearing you talk about something. Well, on the podcast, they said this, this, and this. So, and our intention with our children is to raise them so they think for themselves. And all last year, I would say, like, what are you hearing on the radio? What are you hearing? What do you think about that? Like, you tell me where you stand and what you think is true. And so, like you said, starting younger, then you can almost deprogram from, all the noise out in the world.
If you start younger, there should be less you have to deprogram.
That's what I meant.
But that's a part of the role as parents. It's not the role of the government. It's not the role of the TV. It's not the role of even the church to pass these things on. It's the parents' role to teach the children. both parents, not just the mom. The mom is her responsibility, but it's the dad too. Both of us are to instill, and other families as well, instill your values in your children. If you don't, somebody else will.
Yeah.
They'll come in and fill that void.
I don't think they feel like they have permission. I mean, and yes, we're here to give you permission to do that. I mean, I love that you're saying that, Mike, because it's true. You know, they think that, you know, I think it was, I don't know who said this quote, so someone will tell us in the chat. But they said, I think it was Malcolm X, actually. I think that said that, you know, that you don't want your enemies to educate your children.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
Or however he put it. And I'm like, yeah, you know, I remember when we first started homeschooling, and, you know, my mom thought we were crazy. So she was just like, we're from India. Everybody's very institutionalized to death about that. And they're all about, you just want to get a really good education and then be able to work for somebody. And that was just how they were raised. And for us to not do any of that, or to be kind of going way against that, I guess I can't say both of us are doing it. I love watching that the two of you are doing this together. It's really, really unique that you have a couple that both people are aligned to want to do the same thing. I don't think that every couple is able to do that. I know we're not able to do that. My husband he doesn't feel secure outside of his institutionalized thing just yet. But he supports me 1,000,000% to, you know, be able to do the other side, because he feels that's really important for the kids. He feels it's really important for us to be able to raise them in this other way. And so he wants to support that, so we can change that for future generations, so that it can be something different. You know, Joel actually said to me, he said, you know, well, sometimes you just inherit, you know, like not the best situation. But we still have the power to really, really turn that around. And I think that I just love that you're encouraging parents to be responsible for shaping their children quite literally in the way that they really want to do it, and not to have to, you don't have to be a soccer mom. You don't have to be a whatever. Why is everybody, isn't it like the movie, did you see Wall-E like a long time ago? I don't know, but like,
see parts of it.
Yeah, you know, in that movie, when I was watching it, I thought it was fascinating that, you know, when they say there's somebody in a mic that goes, turn blue, and they all turn blue, turn green, and then, you know, and they're all like on the screen, and, you know, they're all just like, and I mean, that is what society is doing right now. And that was why we wanted to have this conversation. That's why I wanted to have this conversation.
Yeah. And we all come from different situations and different backgrounds and things that we're working on. And you have to work together as a team, even if they're not always on the same page on everything. It'd be ideal if everybody was on the same page about everything, but you got to give each other room, grace, and to grow in the area that they're trying to grow in, and peacefully work together. But God gives us the permission for the parents to teach the children. We don't need that permission from anybody else. He has given us to say, he said, go ahead, diligently teach those kids.
He actually instructed us to do that.
So, and that may take form in different ways. Not every father has to be involved from the homeschooling aspect of things, but he can instill values in other ways. Each family that may differ. I have a little bit more hands-on homeschooling here and there when I can, but we also do aspects of life school while we're here on the homestead. And I'm sure your kids learn so much about nutrition and natural medicine and all that most people don't have.
Yeah.
And another thing is, and this relates to a lot of what we said, is people really just need to disconnect from mainstream media, the virtual reality way of living, and really live a more connected lifestyle to the natural world around them. And really just turn off the box. Stop listening to those voices of propaganda and everything else that is trying to take away from you, trying to steal from you, trying to inject you with all kind of things, physically and metaphorically.
How can we know if we're going to be safe if we do that? This is what I hear. how can we know? How can we know? And meantime, y'all, I mean, I really struggle with this myself, is I want to find the right way. What are the words that people need to hear to know that the people that they're taking advice from this red hot minute, there's nothing to evidence what they're saying is true. There's
exactly right.
There's nothing. Like, I don't see, I mean, I'm asking a question because you're, you got your feet on the ground all the time. I mean, I got boots on the ground, but you have your feet in the soil, right? Do you see everything dropping dead?
That's a pretty obvious, pretty no.
I haven't seen people drop dead yet.
Nope.
And also, okay, I have another question. Do you ever see that when something dies, that do you view that as complete ending? Do you view it as giving more life? How do you view that?
Well, as human beings, I do not view that as the end, that we have an ultimate a bigger purpose than even here. And this is just a training ground. But as far as I don't see things dropping dead. And even if I was observing my animals, if an animal dies or is not in good health, I don't take the whole flock and isolate each and every one of them someplace separately. They'll start going crazy because they're social creatures, just like we are social creatures. And you take the one, if the one is sick, you take it away, you nurse it, you do what you need to do to help it get back to good health. All the while all the other healthy ones are living the life like they should live. They're not being treated like they're diseased. They're fine. They're healthy.
You don't do that to your kids? Like, if one of them gets a cold, you don't do that? You don't keep them and lock them up in them closet somewhere until they're better?
No, that's abuse. That is abuse.
I think they would put you. Okay, so this is the other part. So when you try to talk like this, and I mean, if you did that to your kids, okay, which people are doing that to their kids, they're doing that. So if you do that to your kids, how is that okay? And also, does it make sense? And also, okay, so the other thing I wanted, okay, sorry, I got to dive into this one little piece. And I want everyone out there in YouTube land to know one thing, that our world, this civilized variety of the world, or even otherwise, because the civilized and uncivilized, we're all on the same land often. Okay, someone could argue you're uncivilized in a yurt and I'm civilized in this house. And frankly, I think that when they really want to pay attention, you have more civil, thoughtful, conscious, enlightened things to say than a lot of people in a 5,000 square foot home in a city. Okay, but let's just say whatever. I mean, because people think uncivilized means that you're uneducated, you're unintelligent, or something. I think you're more inspired. I think you're more creative. I mean, this calling that Mike keeps referring to, everyone, is something that all of us have all the time. It's called intuition. It's inspiration that you should experience daily if you quiet your mind and try to find it and listen. And if everyone would quiet their mind and then operate based on the inspiration of the day, that is, there was a thing, it's called inspiration of the day. They used to, in fact, write about it in papers and things a long time ago. Like, somebody would be just the person who would share inspiration of the day because it was valued so much, but all of us have an individual, unique inspiration of the day. And, what's happening in this red hot minute, that they're asking you to take your child and abuse it, basically, by doing this thing. And like, I see children riding bikes outside in the city with a mask on, and I'm just like, oh, how you gonna breathe? Oh no! I mean, you're so concerned about a helmet, but you're not concerned about how they gonna breathe to be able to continue pedaling.
Sad.
I don't know. I don't cross a bunch of lines just yet, but
our children do not wear them.
It's sad. It's sad to see that we would do it to ourselves. We would do it to our elderly people. We would do it to our children. that as you're kind of demonstrating there, it also affects our ability to communicate with each other, which also negatively affects the community and connection that we are to have. It divides us. So
And it makes
it's so
people
sad to see.
afraid.
Did you muzzle your chickens? Did you muzzle the chickens? When they get sick, what happens? You do that to the whole rest of them.
It's just crazy. It's just absolutely crazy. And it just hurts to see that. And for me, even at the beginning of all this, something just in my soul said something is not right here. I think you even maybe remember me saying, I was like, something's sinister, something is just not right here.
Yeah.
And then over time, especially for those people who have any sense and understanding of health, just from a basic standpoint, to hear none of it mentioned, none of it. It was in fact, it's the reverse of what we have known for a long time, of things that promote health, like being outside, breathing fresh air, and coming into contact with those we love, and trying to avoid stress, but instead stay inside, stay away from those you love, constantly listen on TV to stuff that's going to just make you fear and upset and stressful and angry. Don't go to the gym. Oh, gyms are banned. You can't go to the gym. No, don't go to the gym.
Whoever said that first? Because okay, you're the fitness nutritionist person. I'm just, I can't understand it. I mean, I'm sure even when you were learning and working at the gym, I don't know, did you have to follow OSHA regs? What about breathing? What about when you were talking to someone? What about when you're lifting and you're telling them to breathe a specific way? Why don't you talk about that? Just that one aspect.
Exactly right. It's pretty obvious. you need to be able to breathe.
Well, and
also
it's depleting your oxygen levels, then what happens when you don't get enough oxygen? You pass out.
Yep.
This is all common sense things that.
If I'm breathing in my waist,
yes,
did God mess up? Did God mess up?
We don't believe that.
We didn't give us some extra skin flap to put over our face when we weren't feeling good.
Okay, so here's another question for everybody. And I would like to hear Mike and Lacie's answer for this. So, I'm not really that smart. I know that my cells have receptors for these viruses. So I just thought that meant my body's expecting it. Am I wrong?
There's a number of things that another one of the failures that I feel like happened last year or intentional, they have their intentions too. We can have evil intentions and we can have good intentions. Actually, before I move on, I do want to touch on that just a little bit more. So many people listen to these people, and you need to ask yourself, are they coming from a place of love and concern for you? Just stop at that question and answer it. And then also, and if you're having trouble answering that question, try to dig deeper and find out with some of these individuals who are doing these things, what they actually believe. A lot of them make statements all over the place, and you're like, wow, he said that, and people listen to him. He's trying to depopulate the world, and people are listening to this guy. He's not the only one. There's other ones. Look into what they believe, and then ask and really answer it. Are they coming from a place of love and concern? And what are they benefiting from this whole situation? Are they benefiting?
Yes.
Well, what I find interesting is going back to what you said about living with deliberate intention. So if we're living with deliberate intention, I see when you guys are talking, the reason I wanted you on the show today is because you're helping to promote and inspire other people to do something and grow and develop. You're not saying do as I do. You're saying, look what we did. You can too, like shining a light on something, whatever it might be. And, I might not want to live in a yurt and have a garden outside, but I can appreciate that you're like, feel free to do this and show us how you do it. How do you do it? I always hear you asking questions like, what do you guys think? How are you guys doing this? When currently, if you look at, I think everyone's giving mainstream media a little bit too much power. I think that if you can't find the people that are saying the things, someone told me that I'm believing the alternative news, I was told, because of folks like maybe Del Bigtree. Well, guess what? I can meet Del Bigtree. In fact, I've met Del Bigtree. I can talk to Del Bigtree. He's a human being who I can approach. It's not difficult he's not hiding from anyone. If he goes to anywhere that he might be, he's not unwilling to talk to you. When you got folks that you cannot reach, you can't talk to them because they got like a wall of an army protecting them, you might want to wonder what they're saying is true, or are they a puppet, or do they get to actually come up with these ideas on their own, in addition to the logic, like in addition to I believe that you're familiar with Wim Hof methods of breathing.
Yes.
Okay, so there's people who are called breatharians. Did you know that?
No, I didn't hear about that.
They just don't hardly even eat. They just only live on breath. And that
I have heard of those.
and that breathing technique that they do, because they barely eat anything, if anything at all. Okay. And
Wow.
They say that you don't have to eat. Like the air can be enough, which, I don't know about all that. But I'm not interested in really trying that. But I do for a fact know that when I do Wim Hof breathing exercises, it will boost my immune system. So if that's true, then I think that if I do the opposite of it,
then raise your immunity.
Right.
That's right. I totally agree. I am a big fan of Wim Hof method too. Breathing's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's another thing. That's just I'm going to throw this in as a bonus health tip. I don't know how many guests provide health tips, but deep breathing. So many of us breathe so shallow. Stress is a part of that in our lifestyle, but we really need to take time to really get some deep breaths in that fill up our lungs. Try to follow the Wim Hof method if you can, but either way, just deep breathe and it'll benefit you in so many ways. It's like a stress valve right there with the diaphragm, at the diaphragm.
Yeah.
I also kind of want to add to we talked about mainstream media, and I was going to kind of talk about a little bit about the mind of our minds and protecting our minds. We just kind of touched on it a little bit. So we kind of talked on how to remove and disconnect from mainstream media, but we also need to strive to have a concentrated effort to have a joyful and positive and happy personality, character, whatever you want to call it, and to just examine ourselves and ask, am I a happy person? Am I a joyful person?
Do people like to be around me?
Yeah. There's so many evils that are out there in the world, but not to let those evils and people with evil intentions rob us of being joyful, positive, and happy people, that we can stand up and rise above the evils that are out there and not become one of those evil people by just being negative and just constantly thinking on negative things. It's one thing to acknowledge some of these crazy things, and we should acknowledge them, but to not let them cause us to be miserable people. We should abhor those evil things. They're wrong. The stuff that they're doing is wrong. We should speak out about it like you were doing. And I congratulate you for doing, and others for doing as well. But at the same time, we need to make sure that we don't oversaturate our minds with the evil deeds that these people are doing. We need to make sure that we're filling our minds, our spirit with good things, not just to remove the evil, but to actually replace that evil that is coming out of you and feeding it with just good stuff.
You know what I love about that is that's what I've been working on trying to do too. Like create an alternate path.
Mm-hmm.
When we were kids, if somebody was doing something on the playground we didn't like, we just went over to the other side of the playground. Yep. And, we didn't have to participate. And, I don't want people to misunderstand Mike when he's talking about evil. Evil can't come and get you guys. Like
Yeah.
there is no assertion. You have to choose to participate in it. And so the only way that this evil is going to really affect any of us is if we allow it. What we can do is say, you so funny, girl. You so funny. Like, that's really funny. Yeah. Okay. I'll be over here in my reality over here that I've created. And you could just go ahead and have a good time over there. And because, folks have said to me, Mike and Lacie, that, why aren't you an activist? Why aren't you, participating in, we should get this person out of office and that person out of office and whatever. And I don't give my government doesn't give me permission to live. I mean, so what I like people to know, if they don't know this already, is that our first sovereignty comes from God, which I believe Mike said that a couple of times. So we're first allowed to live freely in any way that we want under God.
Mm-hmm.
And
Definitely.
so that's first. Then it is, I mean, maybe you want to give our government structures some, I mean, they're helping to keep us a little bit. I mean, they're trying to keep things, they're supposed to have been keeping things flowing with ease so that everybody is not having car accidents on the road, basically.
Exactly right.
Kind of a thing. But their only work is to uphold our liberty and our freedom, and that is it. Anything
exactly
outside of that, they're not even allowed to. They're not even allowed, if we give them permission to create an emergency and use an emergency as an excuse for overriding and overusing their power, then they're just going to create emergencies all the time. And
exactly right.
I mean, we created these structures to serve us, and they've become our masters. And so we can also just not participate.
Exactly right. They are here. Their jobs are to be public servants, even though they're government. They're to help bring a sense of order to society. However, that does not make them gods to where everybody should bow down to these guys and do everything that they say. Not that, but that also doesn't mean the extreme that we just never listen. There's a balance there, and there's also a balance, like I mentioned earlier, about not filling your mind up with only good stuff. There is a balance there too. You don't want to have your hand in the sand, the proverbial whatever, the ostrich in the ground. You want to make sure that you are informed about what is going on around you and not ignore it, and only just always be focusing on the positive. But I try to have a balance. Like if I feel like, yes, I'm researching and looking at times what's going on in our world, as we should. However, there's times where I was like, all right, that's enough. I feel like it's starting to wear off on me too much. I need to put it aside. I've had enough of that in my diet, my mental diet, and I need to get back to making sure I have a positive mindset and feeding it things that are going to benefit me, not just temporary, but in the long term for eternity.
I agree. I mean, thoughts are things.
Mm-hmm.
Thoughts are things.
Exactly
and
right.
Our words are manifestations of those thoughts. The thought is the manifestation, and so are the words. And so if we allow them to push us into a negative thought, then they're winning.
Yeah.
And if what anybody is saying, anybody, not just television, but anybody, if anybody's saying anything and it makes you feel like, oh, or makes you feel hurt, or makes you feel sad, or makes you feel like, oh, or takes you aback, or makes you lose your breath for a minute, then you should try to go figure out what you have to do, or what do you need to think about to breathe and to think.
Right. Exactly
and
right.
Just, I think a lot of folks are like, well, I don't know who to talk to. I don't know where to go where they might understand. I'm afraid to, like, right now, everyone's afraid to just talk to other people, to find the people who think and believe and feel the joy. Well, I think if you're skipping down the street happily smiling, somebody gonna come out and say, hey.
Yeah, I'm glad you just mentioned afraid, because it's like you read my mind, because that's something I wanted to touch on too, is fear. Yes. Living in faith and not fear. They're promoting fear everywhere, and fear can manifest itself in our we can allow it to manifest in us in all kind of various ways. That fear is what was promoted with this so-called sickness in so many different ways. And for so many people, they have just lived the past year plus 2 year and a half, whatever it's been, in just straight fear. But fear should not control us. No. We should be guided by faith and intention. And for a lot of people this past year, it challenged our belief system. It challenged the belief that maybe it tested us in ways that we didn't even know that we were going to be tested, to the point where, man, maybe I don't know what I believe really. That's a good thing. All of what happened was negative, yes, but we can take what happened and all that negative year and a half, whatever it's been now, and we could, it could be a positive that I feel like I am stronger in what I believe in our faith. It was tough. There were times it was tough. We thought we were the only crazy people there for a while, thinking that what is going on is not right. But it helped us to grow in our relationship with God and our faith and trust in Him, that throughout all the negative, that He's ultimately going to work it out for the good for us. Now, I know everybody's at a different place and believes some different things. I'm not forcing what I believe on anybody who's listening here. I'm just sharing with you our experience with God, because it's something we all have to do. We all need to sit down, and this is something else I encourage everyone to do as a part of examining yourself, is really sit down. And this is what we did as we were going through this calling and this journey, and really sit down and prove what it is that you actually believe. Don't just have the belief or your parents or the society or whatever. It needs to be your belief and what you believe. That doesn't mean you're coming up with your own religion or your own following or something like that. No, it means that the belief system that you have, the values that you have, that you actually know, you have a strong confidence on why you believe those things.
And whenever I was saying about doing things that are uncomfortable, this is one of those things that's uncomfortable.
Yep.
These are the uncomfortable things that you have to address in your life. Because if you are just comfortable and complacent, that's exactly what it boils down to.
Exactly.
You are not moving forward. And then if you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards. And you have to continue. So doing uncomfortable things can be, examining yourself. Like, what do I need to change about me? And, there's plenty of uncomfortable things that when you're talking about what government is supposed to be, go out to a store without a muzzle on. That's uncomfortable. But guess what? It builds your faith and your confidence and your courage every single time you do it, because you're proving what's true and what's right in your life.
You know what Lacie said reminds me of Daniel in the Bible. There was a decree that went out, said you could only pray to the God that they had chosen. It wasn't, they said Daniel was not allowed to pray to the God of the Bible. What did Daniel do in that situation? Did he bow down and say, no, I'm not going to pray to my God anymore because what the government said, I got to listen to them? No, he opened his windows and he prayed to his God like he always had. And 2 Timothy chapter 1 and verse 7, it says, God does not give us a spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and a sound mind. And that's what we should have. And if we don't have that, then we're being led by a different spirit, and we need to work through that. We need to draw closer to God and work through our belief system and really tap in and ask God to help us to have that spirit of power, of love, and a sound mind.
Amen. I think that is the best way to end this conversation, because what I was really hoping for was that we were able to have a little bit of an uncomfortable conversation. I appreciate, you guys, your willingness to do that with me, and to try to help. I hope that this conversation has helped to inspire at least one shift in one person somewhere out there today, to feel a little bit more like, to really just walk in their full power, their God force, because we didn't come here to tread lightly. We didn't come here to tread lightly. We're creators. We came to create. And we should create freely. We should create, knowing that this, God wanted our life to be good for us and good to us. There's, we're liquid love. We're only lovers. And love is the divine solvent of everything. Whatever there, love isn't the opposite of evil. Love is the divine solvent of everything.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. May I add one more thing?
Yes, please.
All righty. I want everyone to keep in mind that evil is not greater than good. The trajectory of things is it will get worse. The Bible does say that too. I know that's tough to accept. However, in the end, it will be gone. Evil will be gone. It will be exterminated forever. God will restore the earth, and those who are now being forced into corners and who are being censored and whatever, that will not always be. God will raise up people like you who teach nutrition and so many things. That will be the norm. There won't be no longer oppressing of people like it's going on right now. This stuff will end. Those are some of the bigger picture things to keep in mind too, as you're going through the various struggles and fighting through the different evils, that these things will come to an end. So that's some of the things that help contribute to the joy that we have, knowing that this will not last forever. It is just but for a moment. It will be tough. It will be tough, but it will end. It will end. And one of the verses that I like, and it's in the book of Micah. We actually named our youngest Micah. He's actually 4 now, and the chapter we're going to look at is chapter 4 and verse 4. And it talks about, but everyone shall sit under his vine and under his fig tree, and no one shall make them afraid. For the mouth of the Lord of hosts has spoken it. That's something to think about. That is a time of peace where we each can have our own little homesteads or whatever we desire to have. And we can sit there in peace, and that no one will again try to make us afraid, because our God will comfort us, and he will provide us with every single good thing. And he will show us how these wicked rulers show us actually how to be a good ruler, and he'll do it.
Yeah. Yes, it is possible to lead with love and not fear. It is. Anyway, guys, I hope you'll join me next week here in the Food Church. Thank you for joining us today. And thank you, Mike and Lacie. I really appreciate you guys stopping by.